My name is Paul Barrett. I'm the Dean of the College of Business and Economics. I welcome you to the second of 4 executive and residence programs this academic year. With the college's mission of preparing students to be tomorrow's innovative citizen leaders, we cannot think of a better way to help us accomplish this mission than to bring to campus some of the most successful, values-based leaders in the world. Tonight's guest speaker is a remarkable business leader, relative to any definition of the term, and we feel very fortunate to have him with us. Our Executive in Residence series began in the early 1990s. It continues to be an important learning tool for all Longwood stakeholders. With the theme of this year's series, Leadership and Innovation, we will be learning more about how the great melting pot known as the United States of America continues to empower organizations that provide creative leadership across the globe. In this regard, tonight's speaker will address the topic, Traits and Characteristics of an Entrepreneur. Tonight's event is sponsored by Barrett Capital Management and SunTrust Bank, and we thank these gracious sponsors for bringing the most distinguished and influential leaders to Longwood. Like tonight's speaker, we get to share their experiences and insights on entrepreneurial innovation, the type of innovation that leads to explosive business growth. With this growth comes a corresponding positive impact on raising the standards of living and opportunities for education and personal development for employees and their families. But it doesn't stop there. Entrepreneurial innovation is a major contributor in the supply chain of corporate responsibility. There are positive impacts on the overall economy, including the protection of the most precious of all of our global assets, the human capital and the human spirit that deserves respect and the right to live independent lives everywhere throughout the world. When I think of our speaker this evening, I am reminded of the remarks by Ed Fuller, the president of Marriott International and the author of the bestseller, "You Can't Lead with Your Feet on the Desk." Hailed by many for his profound yet practical forecast of how people can build relationships, break down barriers, and deliver win-win profits, Mr. Fuller said, and I quote, "No matter the country or community, relationships are the currency of every culture." Building successful business relationships is no different than building personal ones. It demands meaningful engagement with another party. It demands that you get your feet off your desk, cross the cultural borders, and go meet people in the context in which they are most comfortable. So you might ask, what separates successful leaders from others? As Mr. Fuller points out, it is often these 2 things. Number 1, he calls it the value of values. In other words, relationships, business or personal, only survive and prosper when the partners live by a set of clear moral standards. Secondly, and I quote Mr. Fuller, "To respect is to inspire." Successful leaders promote win-win mutual respect with associates and partners, but you can only earn respect by extending it first. Tonight's guest speaker is an incredible example of an entrepreneur who leads from the front. That is, he is willing and able to take on any assignment that he might also delegate to others. He knows that trust must be earned, and in developing one of the largest, most effective internet marketing firms that operates across North America, Europe, and Asia, he is a living example of how innovative entrepreneurship can change lives and society as a whole for the better. I feel very fortunate to have the special privilege of getting to know tonight's speaker, and I mean personally. We've had some time together, and I know from this time that he is a learner for life. For example, when we share this experience, he discussed with me that learning how to communicate and inspire others was not always an easy lesson. But some of the greatest learning on how to be an effective leader came from being a parent. Tonight's speaker said he learned so much about life and relationships from his 3 wonderful children, particularly his fraternal twins. Who would have thought? Parenting twins is ample preparation for handling human resource challenges anywhere, anytime. I know that personally myself. And so our speaker this evening has built a company with a unique business model, one that demonstrates that if you focus on the employees and the customers, the profits, and I might add the speaker and I would also add the twins, will take care of themselves. We have a real leader in our midst this evening, and he is about to share his entrepreneurial values and philosophy with us. I thank you, Will, in advance for sharing your story with us this evening. But before you're introduced, I'd like to recognize our financial sponsors for tonight's program. I ask you to stand. From Barrett Capital Management, we have with us the CEO, David Barrett, and the Chief Compliance Officer, Christine Slate. That's my taller, smarter, more handsome brother. We also have with us this evening, and I asked them to stand briefly, two people who are our very own in-resident leaders whose feet almost never touch their desks. Would you please stand, President Patrick and Mrs. Joan Finnegan. I would also like to recognize the Student Sponsoring Association for tonight's event. Will all the members of the Dean's Student Advisory Board please stand? Thank you, guys. Finally, it's my pleasure to present to you an individual who will actually introduce our guest speaker. Mr. Brandon Caracciolo is a senior standout from Woodbine, Maryland, who will be completing the Bachelor of Science and Business Administration degree in Finance and Real Estate this coming May 2012. As president of the Dean Student Advisory Board, he has been working hard and smart to manage the activities of this association and his current and prior commitments to the Rho Epsilon Student Real Estate Organization and the Alpha Lambda Delta Freshman Honor Society. He is an honor student here at Longwood, and he maintains an overall GPA of 3.97. During his time at Longwood, he has also worked as a resident assistant, a tutor in accounting, all the while spending his off hours working as a customer service assistant for State Farm Insurance and a sales associate at Kohl's department store to help pay for his college education. Brandon is an emerging leader. Further, he is the type of individual we all want to know and call friend. Please join me in welcoming to the podium Mr. Brandon Caracciolo.
Good evening. As one of the early pioneers in the internet marketing field, our speaker tonight has helped revolutionize the online landscape, leading the use of new online advertising formats and technologies. Mr. Will Margiloff is the CEO and founder of Innovation Interactive, a 500-person digital marketing service company headquartered in New York City, with offices in North America, Europe, and Asia. Started in 2002, his company currently manages over $1 billion in digital media annually for such big-name companies as NBC Universal, Coca-Cola, MTV Networks, Kraft Foods, JCPenney, and many others. Mr. Margiloff directs the overall strategic direction of Innovation Interactive, focusing on finding synergies for the company's 3 divisions. In addition to being a regular speaker at industry and investment conferences focused on internet advertising, Mr. Margiloff is also the CEO of Ignition One, where he leads their global growth strategy and the development of its digital marketing suite. Despite his busy jet-setting lifestyle, Mr. Margiloff still finds time for his children and his lovely wife, who is a Longwood alumnus. On behalf of the Dean Student Advisory Board, please help me in welcoming to the stage Mr. Will Margiloff.
Thanks. Appreciate it. That's a pretty amazing introduction. I was like looking around and trying to figure out who they were talking about, especially Paul. Tonight, this is going to be an interactive kind of lecture, I should say. I've got what every student really wants, which is T-shirts up here. And all you have to do is raise your hand and answer questions to get free t-shirts. And I have sizes, large, small, medium, so everybody can get something. I think what I'm going to do tonight is kind of give you guys a story in 3 parts. The first part is really about the characteristics that I gained from moments in my life pre-college and even a little bit through college, but then pre-really workforce. So I think what's important for you guys to realize as students is everything you're learning today and you've learned to date is important when it comes to running a business, being involved with a business, being part of the workforce out there. And you're going to see it. I'm going to demonstrate it through the things that have gone really in my life or how they've gone in my life. You're going to see how you can apply moments of time in building character and building the traits that are necessary for you guys to be entrepreneurs or effective parts of the workforce. So we're going to talk about a moment. And we'll talk about the moment that changed my life. So you guys know this is Anchorman. Who knows Anchorman, the movie here? Okay, no one gets a t-shirt for that. Too many hands. So Anchorman plus call center equals classified ad. Get a job. Okay? So this was the moment in my life. It's 1995. My then girlfriend, not my wife, was dating, we were dating, and she was an anchor in Burlington, Vermont. She was like Channel 22, Burlington, Vermont or something. And I was working at this terrible place that I hated going to. And you used to have to make 100 phone calls a day, and they tracked you and wanted to know how much time you spent making phone calls. It was really a terrible place. You never want to work at that type of place. And my life was really sucky because what I found out is my girlfriend calls me up and she says, Will, I think things are going to change. It's not quite going the right way. I'm starting to see the weatherman. Okay? So the moment in time for me is weatherman plus cruddy job. And I said, my life is terrible. And the next day I opened up a newspaper. And the first and only ad in the New York Times classified section was for an internet advertising sales job. The only internet job in there. And so I was like, wow, this is it. The internet. This is going to be it. Now you guys all say, oh, the internet, I know all about it. This is 1995. There were like 12 websites. There was nothing going on. And so this was my moment. And I think when you look back at your life and anybody who's been in business, there might be a moment for them. There are moments in your life that define you, that change you, that get you down the path to be successful. But this is my moment here. The Will Ferrell, weatherman guy, dumped by the girlfriend, terrible job, and this is what happened to me. So why am I here? We got a great intro from Brandon, but I'll give you guys just a quick highlight on the business itself. Our focus at Innovation Interactive, we really have 3 different divisions, but we're focused on doing a couple different things here, engaging, acquiring, and retaining customers for our clients. And that really is the genesis of the business. We do that through services. We do that through technology. Lots of things we're doing for them. But mostly you can think about us as an advertising agency. We buy media for clients. We help them track that media. We then take that media and we figure out obviously how to help convert those users who go to a marketer's website. We do all these things with technology and with know-how. And as Brandon pointed out, we're managing about $1 billion annually for big clients like JCPenney and Coke and a number of other guys like Capital One, Ancestry.com, Apple Computers, a bunch of different big clients. But our focus, quite frankly, is on the client. And this graph is actually interesting because we really think about the client at the center of everything that we do. And in classes today, in discussions today, we talked about how to run a business and how to be ethical and think about what's best for your client first and foremost, and make sure your employees know what's best for the client is best for them, and we'll get paid fairly, and our business will grow. And so we think about really a strategy like this where they're at the center of everything that we do. So what do people say, what do industry people say, what do customers say, what do our employees say about us? This bottom graphic is really something that's quite interesting which is basically a tag cloud. And based on survey results from our clients and our employees, these are the types of words that they're thinking about when they think about working for our company. And it's important, as we talked about a little bit earlier today, it's important to go to work and be happy. So you're spending a lot of time there. You know, as much time as you guys are spending in class right now, you're going to spend like 3 times that every day at work. So you better be happy and excited to go to work, right? It's a super important thing. You got to think about what you want to do and who you want to be with and the type of company you want to work for. So, you know, I was amazed when I saw SSC fun as big as it was, because I'm like, aren't we trying to make money here? What's the story? But fun can work. You know, having a fun environment for employees generates profits. It works that way. And that's what kind of you guys expect as students now, and we're now expecting in the business world to not only do great work for our clients, but have fun doing it. We've got some other stuff up there recognized by Ad Age and Fast Company and some more industry trade-related organizations in terms of the quality of the business. But you know, this is the most important thing that we can look at, this tag cloud at the bottom. And it's super important to us, and we do evaluations and surveys all the time with our employees and clients. So I'll stop and just give you a couple of key bullet points on what we do, and then we'll move on to the more interesting thing, this journey of moments that build the characteristics and traits of entrepreneurs. So we've got proprietary technology, we've got this audience platform business, we've got a digital agency, we've got 12 offices, 7 countries, 600 employees. We basically focus on Fortune brands. 8 out of the top 20 spenders on Google use us as an agency to spend their money. Those little ads you guys see on the side of Google, on the top of Google. We manage about $1.5 billion today across all of our businesses. That creates about $20 billion of revenue for our clients annually. And we track every single piece of data associated with that. And that generates about $140 million in revenue for our business. So those are kind of the key metrics we look at in the size and scope of the business. It's amazing because I only had a 2.7 GPA. I can't imagine what Brandon's going to do with that. It's going to be amazing. But you can have a company this big with a 2.7. So if anyone has a 2.7, you know, it's possible. So let's talk about the beginnings, where it all kind of starts, and those traits and those characteristics. Those are all pictures of me when I had hair, which is amazing. But I think the important thing you see here is a couple of different things. First of all, I was super into sports, totally consumed by sports. I don't think I could read until 3rd grade. Literally, I was just so focused on baseball. That was number one. I was going to be a baseball player. I remember going out there and throwing the ball up against the carport hours and hours and hours because my brother couldn't play any sports and my sister couldn't play any sports. My dad was a chemical engineer and they usually don't play sports, and so it was me against the carport. But you know, it was an important time for me because I think what it gave me at this point was really passion and desire. I knew I wanted to be something, and I was going to work really, really hard to do it. And so that happened to be baseball. But thinking back, that work ethic, that all started back then. Hours and hours and hours playing, throwing that ball, you know, pitch back. I don't know, they still use pitchbacks these days, but you know, a pitch back would throw the ball back to me and stuff. But that was where the passion really started. It happened to start around sports, but I've now, you know, thinking back, channeled that into something else. You also have to have mentors. So this guy down here was my grandfather. This is me. I was 3 years old. Sharp dresser, look at that. Bow tie. I mean, pretty amazing. You know, it's kind of funny looking at that because I used to hate when my mom dressed me up like that. And now when you look at it, it's so cute. But I can't get my kids to do that. But my grandfather was an amazing entrepreneur. And I think a lot of people in your life, it doesn't have to be somebody related to you. You might find somebody and gravitate to somebody who's a mentor and who can show you what they've done in their life. This guy was amazing. You know, he had businesses in Coney Island when he was 10 years old. He was running factories in Brooklyn, when there was child labor laws, or it wasn't child labor laws, and there were guys in there with kids doing different parts and machinery factories and stuff. It was really an amazing story, and I used to listen to this guy all the time. And he was this mentor, this amazing mentor that I had to be an entrepreneur, what it took, and the desire and the passion. So this is a little part of the beginning here of the journey, but the journey continues on. And I might have told this story earlier today about running businesses. So I grew up in a pretty affluent neighborhood. I wasn't affluent. I couldn't figure out how everybody else had this and that, and I didn't have any of this stuff. But I wanted it, right? I wanted to get to that point where I could have what they had. And it wasn't coming from my parents. So at about 10 or 11, my mom was smart enough to say, hey, why don't you go ask the neighbors if you can mow their lawn for them. So I'm like, all right. And I went over there and I asked them. An hour later, I was done, and I had $20 in my pocket. I thought that was amazing. Like, wow, this is pretty cool. So I kept walking around the neighborhood and circling out. And suddenly, I had gotten like 50 people to say yes at $20 a pop. And I'm like, it's physically impossible for me to mow all these lawns. How am I going to do this? I got this great business. I got to figure this thing out. So I actually went out, and I got my buddies to mow the lawns for me. And I paid them $10. So I'm sitting back, literally hanging out, and these guys are mowing lawns, and my shoes are green. I had a couple of lawns I had to do myself. But I early on figured out I could leverage other people to make some of my dreams a reality. Now, I didn't make 100% of the money, but I made 50%, and it was a pretty good gig. So that was like a moment in time when you think about you guys, and it could be that bake sale you did at school, or the lemonade stand, or whatever it may be. There could be a moment in time where it really started for you as an entrepreneur. That was one of my first endeavors to make money. Well, that wasn't enough, because I'm sitting around for 2 or 3 summers. All my clothes smell like grass, and my shoes are always green. It was terrible. It was a terrible existence. And so I was talking to a buddy of mine one day, and he said, my brother paints houses, and they make $3,000. They can paint a house in 2 weeks. They make $3,000. I'm like, $3,000? This is incredible. Got to figure out how to get my friends to paint these houses, right? This is going to be great. And so sure enough, I convinced 4 or 5 houses, people in the neighborhood, that we were going to paint their houses. And I'm over at Sears. There was no Lowe's or Home Depot back then. I'm at Sears with a checklist, trying to figure it all out. The first house was a total disaster. There's paint everywhere. But we figured it out, and I think that summer we painted 4 or 5 different houses, and I had a team of guys. Of course, no insurance. Thank God no one fell and hurt themselves. But this was like the next evolution. How do I take this small-time business as a lawnmower and make it into something more realistic and bigger? This obviously is something, in my eyes was kind of the initiative or ingenuity in moving this business forward and thinking about how I could make more money. And it was really more about, going from something that I felt was more time consuming to something that I think would elevate kind of the revenue potential of my little organization and my 25 guys that were running around begging me for work. So then we get to this, which is kind of like where the story kind of deviates a little bit. So, Goosebusters, this is like this crazy thing, right? Now, this happens to be my mom's business, okay? So, what is Goosebusters, right? My mom came up with this wacky idea that she was going to stop geese from coming up off the Long Island Sound and pooping all over those rich people's lawns. And she would do it with these electric fences. She would put in the ground, and there'd be solar chargers and stuff. And I was like, this is a terrible idea. This is awful. I got this great business over here. I got painting houses. This is terrific. But my dad, like there's been a recession recently, in 1981, my dad lost his job in the 81 recession. And it was just as bad. There were tons of people out of work. And my dad was about 50 years old. And anybody, you guys aren't thinking about it because you're young, but if you're 50, and somebody's looking at a 25-year-old graduate for the same position at half the cost, they're probably going to hire the guy who's 25 and take their chances. And that really happened in the early 80s. So my dad was out of work, and my mom was trying to make money. And so I said, okay, I'll help you out. I'm going to take this thing over. But it's a total deviation from where I wanted to be. But it was one of those things that you had to do, where you had to show compassion and empathy and support your family in this case. And so I ended up running this business as like kind of 14-year-old to 17-year-old, running around doing this stuff on the summers with my mom and my brother and some other people, but really crazy idea. You know, I wouldn't recommend it for anybody here. There's a lot of goose stuff all over the ground. It's not pleasant. But you know, you can't paint houses, you can't mow lawns, you can't stop geese in the winter. So what do you do in the winter in the Northeast when you got tons and tons of snow? You shovel snow. Now, I didn't really have a snow shoveling business. What I did have is I had the international headquarters of IBM was in my town in Armonk, New York. And they had a great gig there, which every college student would love to have, every high school student would love to have. It was $15 an hour if it was supposed to snow. It didn't have to snow. They would call you up, you would go up there, you would hang out on the IBM property waiting for snow with a shovel, like literally walking around trying to catch the snow because they didn't want any snow anywhere. And that was my kind of, wow, if I can really work the system, I can figure out how to make money without even working. Now, you don't get many jobs like that, but you know, that's just my trait, another deviation a little bit, which is, you know, there's opportunities out there, and you've got to grab hold of them when you can. This one happened to be a real sweetheart deal, thanks to IBM, but you know, there are going to be things that present themselves to you, and they're not going to be maybe on the path that you expected to be on, but they're ones that you should maybe grab hold of and take advantage of because they're going to be character building opportunities. So let's go move forward a little bit to college, where you guys are now. So, you know, per Brandon's story, working a lot of jobs, I had the same gig. So had a scholarship. Back then it was $11,500 to go to my school in upstate New York, and I had $7,500. 4 years later, it was $17,000. I had a $7,500 scholarship and no money from my parents. So playing baseball, girlfriends, whatever else you do at night in college, I can't remember. I'm sure you guys are familiar with what you do. And I had to make money, right? I had to go run out and make money. So, you know, I was in the weight room. I was a weight room monitor. I didn't monitor a lot. I was doing my homework then. Guys are dropping weights on themselves, doing all kinds of stuff. You know, I worked in the laundry, in the gym, which was really a prize. That was great when the guys left special presents for me on their little thing that they sent back into the laundry. That wasn't very pleasant. And I delivered food. All over campus. I ran food service when I was a sophomore and junior, and then I delivered food, which was the greatest gig on campus. If no one's doing that, get that job. It's awesome. Because when somebody doesn't eat the food, you can bring it back to your house and feed the entire family back there, the starving students with you. So the point being here is that school is a great opportunity for time management, right? Think about all the things you guys do here. It's incredible the amount of time you guys spend juggling different things. Friends, schoolwork, of course, extracurricular activities. It's pretty amazing if you really step back and think about how you've managed your time here and how that can be effectively used going forward. Because you talk to any businessman, it's about how do I take my day and chop it up into little pieces and get stuff done. And that's from, you know, doing financial stuff to strategic planning, talking to clients, putting out fires. It's all about managing time. So I really think that, you know, an important part of what you're doing today, if you really step back and think about it, is really time management. And that's, to me, for an American history major, it's probably the most important thing I got out of college, was the time management piece. So let's talk about American history for a minute, because this is where it gets interactive. Who knows who this guy is? If you're an adult, you can't raise your hand. No, you asked too many questions today. Come on. They're on your money. Come on, do you guys look at money? Wrong. You don't get a t-shirt. There you go. All right. Give them a round of applause right there. I think my mic just broke, but we'll leave this down here. There you go. There's a t-shirt for you. What did this guy do? Oh, t-shirt? Okay, so this guy was an amazing founding father, but had a lot of the traits that we've already talked about, right? This guy was doing everything. Talk about time management. This guy was the animal of time management. He was a soldier. He was obviously a founding father, right? He basically wrote the Constitution. He defended the Constitution with the Federalist Papers. He was the first Secretary of the Treasury. He also got in that duel. Remember the duel thing? Remember that whole thing he was doing? This guy was an amazing, amazing entrepreneur. It's really a great book to read, the book on Hamilton, because he had all these qualities that entrepreneurs really have. Oh, by the way, he started the U.S. Bank. He started New York Post, which is, not, you guys don't get it down here, but he had incredible passion and desire, and his time management skills were crazy good. Okay? We're going to keep having these, so just imagine who's coming next. No more founding fathers, though. Okay, who's this dude? What? Boom, t-shirt. All right, here we go. I've got 20 of these, so get ready. If you have the wrong size, just come find me. I always wanted to do that. It's like a peanut guy at the baseball game. So what'd this guy do? I don't know, he was the richest guy in the world, right? By far. Gates, Carlos Slim in Mexico, they have nothing on this guy. He was the absolute killer guy, entrepreneur. You guys know Exxon? Do you know Mobil, Chevron, Sunoco, Phillips, Conoco? You know all those gas stations? They were all part of his company. They're still here today. ExxonMobil is the biggest company in the world. That was his company. 1865, he started Standard Oil. This guy had incredible confidence. He had incredible ambition to build something that no one had ever seen before. He basically took, essentially, the oil industry and grew it from nothing and was at the center of that. He seized an opportunity. So again, when you start thinking about what you want to do, and maybe it's an entrepreneurship or start your own business, it's about seizing those opportunities when you see them. This guy was amazing. You should look him up sometime. I know it's like Rockefeller, from Jay-Z, but this is Rockefeller. This is the real guy. Okay, who's this guy? Come on. Come on, I'm looking up. I'm looking at these lights. Anyone? Who said that? All right, come on, you again. You know too much stuff. All right, let's give him a t-shirt. This guy really wants a t-shirt. Here we go. Oh, okay, bad throw. This guy was amazing, right? This guy worked 24/7 thinking about innovation and ingenuity and how to move the needle forward. Light bulb, phonograph, you guys know about phonographs? So these discs that go on there. We don't really know or use them anymore, but those used to be around for a long time. He invented the film industry, the projector. The ability, when you guys go to a movie, this is a guy who did that. And all he thought about was how to innovate and invent. And so he's another amazing guy with the right characteristics. I think about this guy and I say, he probably failed more than anybody else in what he did. But he always ended up working and tweaking, and he ended up probably with more patents than any individual in the United States, probably the world. One individual guy, from tweaking, from failing. Failure is actually your greatest generator of ideas, and you have to fail to be successful. So any of you that are failing, class right now, try a little bit harder. I don't know how to help you there, but try a little harder, it'll make you better. Okay, let's go to failure for a second. Anyone? If anyone gets this, they might get this whole bag of t-shirts. All right, no one's going to get this. This guy's Preston Tucker. So Preston Tucker, oh, it's somebody saying they know it now, right? Oh, everyone's like, okay. Preston Tucker was an automobile executive in the 40s and 50s, and he started a company called Tucker Automotive. And Tucker Automotive, they did a movie on it a couple of years ago, but really amazing guy. But it just shows that from failure can come great innovative ideas. This guy basically had a car company. They never even launched a car, but he invented seatbelts. He invented the dashboard with all your lights right in front of you. He invented the pop-out window, this side airbag or roll bar, all these different, the single tire, tubeless tires. So he had all these different inventions, and he innovated, but he failed because he couldn't get the car out the door. But people took his failures and were very successful with them. And we'll talk a little bit about other people who took failures and were very successful. So let's talk about part two. This gets into maybe stuff that's maybe more interesting to some of you guys about work, right? So how did I get to digital marketing from mowing lawns and painting houses and stuff? And it starts in 1992 when I graduated, and there was this recession, and I faxed out my resume 50 times. 50 individualized faxed cover letters. You guys know what faxes are? Right? Like, this is another thing. Like, this is what was going on. Like, technology has changed so quickly. Now you can just email it to somebody, PDF it, email it, send it out. So 0 calls back. Not a single call back. I called every one of them, not a single call back. But I ended up getting this amazing job because of my Goosebusters experience back there. My mom had decided that she wanted to be in this dog fencing business, which is like that invisible fence, okay? So I'm like, all right, that sounds better than chasing geese. This sounds like a much better job. I like dogs. So I went up and I met these guys I'm starting a company, and sure enough, clicked with them. Mentors for life. Bosses for life. I always say every one of these guys I had a boss at, they're always my boss. I see them, I say, hey, boss. These were my starting bosses. Two incredible entrepreneurs who started a business up in Massachusetts to compete with Invisible Fence. And they entrusted me, 23-year-old kid, to be the regional sales manager. It was a great title. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. I had to drive from Virginia to Massachusetts and basically open up dealerships talking to guys who were fence companies and pet shop owners. It sounded glamorous for about 5 seconds. And then you do it for a couple of years, and we end up at a point where my bosses are like, well, you did a great job. Thanks. You've worked your way out of a job, which happens in life. But what I realized, I got incredible experience. And in one of today's classes, we're talking about communication and talking with folks and not texting them, talking with them. And I think in this job, more than any other job, I had to work so hard when I talked to the potential client to sell them this product. And I wasn't selling like individual fences to individual people. I was selling the dealerships. I just had to speak on my feet quickly and drive all over the place to do it. And that was just an amazing moment for me because I had to actually gain the skill set to actually communicate with people. Because before that, you're in college, you're hanging out, you're talking to your buddies. Now I actually had to talk and communicate one-on-one with business owners. And that experience was really, really important to me. Now back to my mentors here. They said, Will, you did a great job. We've got this incredible dealer network. Go find a job. We'll pay you while you find your job. And so I ended up finding this crazy job at Venture Direct. That's actually the Moment one. That's the call center type thing where I was cold calling people, getting them to buy ad space on Prodigy, CompuServe, and AOL. Now, you guys probably know AOL as like this dinosaur of the internet that no one uses anymore, right? They were actually the small guy in 1994. They were the smallest internet, it wasn't even internet, it was online service. There was no web in 1994. No commercial web like we know it today. And so I took that job. I'm like, wow, this sounds pretty cool. I'm going to sell ads on this really cool computer-to-computer network, and hopefully this comes to something. I just knew, I sensed there was something there. And of course, it was a terrible job, and they were tracking our phone calls and taping us, and they'd call up and, Will, come into my office. Why are you calling your friends 55 times today? I'm like, to keep my numbers up. But, that didn't last too long, and then obviously, the weatherman thing happened, and I moved to this next little company called Jumbo, which is kind of a funny name, but the internet really started by colleges connecting to each other and trading files. And computer science departments were trading files around over telephone lines to each other, and that's really the commercial side of the internet started from that. And Jumbo was this shareware and download site. And so it was kind of a perfect opportunity for me to gain a lot of experience. When I actually submitted my resume for the job that I thought was an ad sales guy, I went in and they're like, okay, it's $25,000 and it's 4% commissions on everything you sell. And I'm like, wow, that's going to be great. It's terrific. And I left, and I was probably the only guy in New York City, or maybe a handful of guys in New York City who had actually sold anything online. So I had experience that no one else had. So I left there, and I get a phone call from the owner, and he goes, we're going to hire you as a sales manager. So I'm like, okay, I don't know how to manage. Forget that regional sales manager title I had over here, dog watch. It was just me in a car driving around talking to people. So now he's like, okay, I've hired all your salespeople. They're making $17,000 a year and 4% commissions or something like that. So I'm like, wow, here I am. I'm a manager. I'm like 25. I'm a manager. I'm going to make this happen. And I thought back to all these days as an entrepreneur growing up when I was small, and I realized that I had it in me to create the plan, the strategic plan to make this business a success. And so I went in that first day with all the plans and the strategy plans and how we were going to call people and how we were going to follow up, and our spreadsheets are going to track calls and do all this different stuff. And we made that business very successful, so much so we sold it a couple of years later for about $25 million. I didn't get any of that money. Somebody else did, but it was on my back. But it was a stepping stone to what was next. And I was lucky enough to take that position and parlay that into a new opportunity, which was a real story, because this next business, 24/7 Media, was actually, it used to be one of the largest internet advertising networks. And now it actually is owned by a company called WPP, which is one of the largest advertising agencies in the world. But 24/7 was formed through the combination of 3 different businesses, and I ran one of those businesses. So I'm 27 at that point, and a hot shot running around. I'm Mr. Internet Advertising, and I'm saying that facetiously, guys. So, I did, sometimes you get full of yourself, and I think there was a point where I think, in hindsight, looking back, I probably was very much full of myself at this point, because no one actually knew how to do this stuff except a select handful of people. So 24/7 was really interesting because the company that I joined was going south. And so I took it upon myself to say, I can save this company. I know how to sell ads better than these other guys. I got the programs. We got the ad space. We can sell ads, and we're going to make something of this. And we built up one of those 3 little businesses and eventually formed 24/7. We built it up into the bigger one of the 3, so much so that they decided to do this 3-way merger, and we formed 24/7. And at one point, this company, 24/7, went public after I left, and they were worth something like $7 billion, which was pretty amazing. But when we joined, the one division was almost out of business. And so I took it upon myself, and thinking about those traits back there, the tenacity, the ingenuity, and I said, I can use these traits to make this business successful. So on to the next one, which is theglobe.com. You guys should all know what theglobe.com is, because it's Facebook in 1998. Homepage building, chat rooms, discussion boards, clubs. It's everything you're doing today except it cost a lot more to host that in 1998. There were no advertisers who wanted to advertise in it, and there weren't as many consumers on the internet. And so very much ahead of its time, but a very successful business that I was part of. And I joined in 1998. It was started by college students in Cornell, 2 guys. My bosses were 25. I was 28. I'm like, these guys don't know what they're talking about. I'm only 28. I really didn't know what I was talking about either, but they couldn't know more than me. But really, really smart guys. And the Globe actually went public in 1998, 8 months after I joined. Month 1 I was there, we were doing about $5,000 of revenue. 8 months later, we were doing about $1 million of revenue. Very quickly. We went public, and to this day, the Globe is the second highest grossing IPO in the history of the NASDAQ. Now, it's out of business now, but that's besides the point, because the bubble happened, right? The crash happened, and many of you guys probably don't really remember that, but all these things that we did in part 2 here were really stepping stones to what I've been doing recently. But you get back into these traits again, and you think about what happened during this time. You think about creativity and imagination. When I started at the Globe, there was no banner sizes. There's no such thing as a standard size for your ad. There was no way to serve that ad and track it. There was no way to track the clicks on it, track the conversions on it. There was no text ads, pop-unders, email marketing. None of this stuff existed. All this stuff that you may or may not love as a consumer made money for these sites to give away their content for free. And none of that existed. So when we think about creativity and imagination, I always think about this guy, who was an amazing entrepreneur. We were all kind of lucky to see his genius, somewhat evil genius sometimes. You know, I don't think he was the best people person. But he was incredible at marketing products. And if you look at him, he always pointed back to a time in his life was a defining moment, his time when his dad was building a fence. His dad said to him, I don't care what it looks like on the other side of the fence. I just want it to look really nice on this side of the fence that we look at all day long. It was a defining moment in his mind for how he developed and built products to look beautiful, right? What's going on inside an Apple product is a mess. Like you see wires and all this kind of stuff. It's obviously got more elegant over time, but he was all about design and creativity and imagination. I could add in here that he was an incredible disruptor too, which every entrepreneur wants to be as well. He disrupted major industries like the computer industry. He saved the music industry. Napster and LimeWire and Rhapsody and all these different guys were giving away files for free. And he figured out how to save the music industry by creating iTunes, which is pretty amazing. He's basically put every camera company out of business, every video camera company out of business by putting that functionality into an iPhone, right? So, you think about this guy, the creativity goes well beyond kind of your normal creativity, but the innovation ingenuity is pretty crazy as well. Okay, who's this guy? I'm reaching in, I'm going in. You can't answer this, come on. Come on. Ford, good job. All right, this guy's an amazing innovator too, right? Think about it, he basically revolutionized car making and the assembly line, probably the biggest thing that he brought to the table. I can't say that I've invented an assembly line, but I love his innovation, his execution, a stickler for detail, and did an amazing job bringing automobiles to the masses. This is something that was pretty amazing. So let's go to the end. We're almost there. See Blackberries being checked and stuff. So 2002 to now, very, very quickly. So I was at a company called Net2Phone. I left the Globe in 2000, and I went to a company called Net2Phone. You guys know Skype, right? Net2Phone invented that technology. And so I was there to help them make money. They were going to embed that technology in Microsoft Messenger, Yahoo Messenger, AOL Messenger, so you could make phone calls from your computer to any phone in the world, and that was all going to be supported by the sale of advertisements. So I was there, built up this business for a couple of years, and in 2002, my bosses came to me, who were new bosses. They hadn't hired me, and they said, we're shutting your division down. Pack your stuff up. on a Friday. I'm like, what? What's going on here? And so I kind of freaked out. I said, I've never been fired. This is crazy. I thought I was such a hot shot. And so I went home and I called some of my buddies. And I said, they're terminating our division. All 23 of us are going to be gone on Monday if we don't do something right now. So we got together. We worked all Saturday, all Sunday, and we developed essentially a pitch deck. And we ran out to people we knew in the internet industry and investors, and we said, buy this company, buy this group. And I called another one of what has come to be one of my mentors, who was my old boss who had hired me at that company and who was also fired by the board. And he said, let's try and get it ourselves. We'll buy it together. I'll back you. So sure enough, he lent me $750,000. And we ended up buying this little business, which was $10 million, for $1 million and 23 employees. So we saved everybody. They had all their health care, 401k, all this stuff was saved. And I felt really good, back to ethics and running good business. I felt great about myself because I had saved all these people's jobs. It was a wonderful day. We ended up growing the business quite rapidly from there because everyone knew we were all in it together. We had our sleeves rolled up and we were going to do whatever it takes to be successful. And we ended up buying some companies and doing some different things just from the cash flow of the business. And almost 3 years to the day after buying it for $1 million, we sold it for $120 million. And that guy who gave me $750,000, he made $56 million. Now, he didn't lift a finger. He didn't do any work. He was just a really smart guy who knew how to invest in entrepreneurs. And that's just another great trait of people. And I feel great about it. I wish you'd name a kid after me or something. But he gave me the money. He believed in me, and that made me a much better entrepreneur and executive because of that. Now, what's interesting is a couple months after we sold it, the company we sold it to had a big financial scandal happen. This is where Dean Barrett really loves this part of the story, because like several months after this deal's done, they don't want us anymore because they have to focus on cleaning themselves up. So we spent a year trying to figure out how to buy the business back. And then in early 2007, we were able to buy this business that we had just sold for $120 million. We bought it back for 31. Same business, same exact business. And so really amazing opportunity. I don't think that happens to a lot of people, but we seized that moment. Again, I didn't say before, when we initially bought the business, I cleared the bank account. My wife wasn't that happy. Longwood education told her that's not usually a good thing, to go to zero on the bank account. And we did it again here. We went to zero. We went all in because we knew the business. We knew it really well. So me and a bunch of partners, we went all in. We got a private equity partner to invest the money. And over the next couple of years, we grew the business quite rapidly. Again, you can see the employees are growing. We raised additional capital right after we bought the business back. 6 months later, we actually raised money at the old valuation. So back to $120 million we raised some money at. And then we ran the business in really some tough times in 2009 and really focused and used a lot of these characteristics that we talked about and grew the business so much so that we had an interested party and we just sold the business in January of 2010 for $300 million. So it's kind of an interesting buy, sell, buy back, raise some capital, sell again, and quite an interesting growth curve. But you really can't do this without the foundation that we talked about before, whether it's the childhood characteristics or it's the things that happened to me as a young executive. And so we'll talk a little bit about some of those ingenuity, because buying companies back and forth and getting them for less than you sold them for is pretty difficult. Who's this guy? Who? All right, good. A lot of shirts here. Let's see if I can make this one work. Oh, nice. Okay. Invented the helicopter, right? Besides being a great painter, helicopter. I mean, it's just crazy, the mind of these guys. But this is about thinking outside the box, right? And so you always have to think about how you can do something better or innovate something. That gets back to the last piece, the journey. They're the 3 kids. I call them the knuckleheads because they do crazy stuff. I can't imagine what they're going to be doing when they're your age. I mean, that's going to be even crazier. But they really have taught me how to be a better manager, because you need incredible patience and persistence in dealing excuse me, with kids. And what I found out is employees are actually like kids. Humans never really grow up. And so trying to deal with them in a way takes a lot of patience. I used to be a yeller and screamer. I missed that part when I didn't tell you on that curve, yelling, screaming at people. I don't do that anymore because it doesn't work. And you figure those things out because you have to deal with kids like this. So, you get a lot of those traits just by being around them, but you also can, you can learn that from reading about other people. Anybody know this guy? Okay, all right. Great work, guys. Okay, here, I don't know. We'll just start throwing these around. I got too many to deal with now. Watch all the hands go up. Hey, see, look at that. Troy, look what's going on over here. We'll throw a few around here. All right, I got to get rid of these. Here we go. Okay. So we're back to Lincoln. This gets back to patience. And I think I talked about this before, and I'll go real fast because I know we're running out of time. But Lincoln was amazing at bringing his enemies really close to him. You guys ever hear the saying, keep your friends close, your enemies closer? This guy did it. He was a genius. 3 of the guys that ran against him for president in that race that he won, he brought into his cabinet because he wanted their views, their dissenting views. He wanted all these different things. And he learned how to wait them out. I always do this thing I call Lincolning it. Just guys screw up at work or some vendor does something. I write this flaming email, or I put down bullet points of how I'm going to rip this guy's head off, and then I pocket it. I keep it all night. Lincoln was famous for this. He would write something, put it in his drawer, he'd go back to the next day, and then he'd rewrite it. And he'd tone it down, or he'd have a clear mind to think about it. And, kids have helped me do that, right? Because you just want to rip their head off. You want to yell and scream. It's not going to work. And so you can learn from guys like Lincoln. How about this guy? All right. Close? Close? Aristotle? It's Aristotle. Okay, you get a shirt anyway. All right, bad throw. Okay. Empathy, compassion. These are other important things you got to have, obviously, when you're thinking about work and you're thinking about characteristics. And I think I got this more, again, from family and that journey, right? You have to be able to relate to the people that you're dealing with. He wrote something on the art of persuasion, ethos, logos, pathos, and it was all about that. And then I'll just give you guys this. Who knows who this guy is? Everyone knows 300, right? Leonidas. All the adults are like, what's that? Like kids know this. Leonidas. So, I don't know. I think in the movie they called him the benevolent king or something like that. That humpback guy was always talking about him. But he had compassion. He was passionate, had the desire, innovative, was, a true entrepreneur, but had that empathy, which every great leader is going to have. So I won't go through all the list of all those characteristics, but hopefully, the list of moments that I talked about that help derive, who I am in the business world, you can see that it's not just me, it's other entrepreneurs out there that have built great things. And they have many of these qualities and many more. But there's obviously one more that you need. Anyone know what that is? Dedication, that's a good one. Okay, I'll make it easy. It's just luck, right? You just have to be lucky sometimes. Who is this dude? No one's ever going to get this. Let's start throwing these out because no one's getting this thing. Throw some over there. We're almost done. We're at the end. Okay, last one. Here we go. Okay. This is a guy who invented Band-Aids. Because he was working at Johnson & Johnson, and his wife was always cutting her fingers, and so he took 2 products from Johnson & Johnson, adhesive tape and gauze, and put them together and created Band-Aids. Just out of luck. And that's sometimes what it takes to be successful, is just really luck. So don't ever forget that you have all these different components plus a little luck on your side. And that's it. Thanks. Did I run out of time? So the question was, when you originally sold it, was the plan to buy it back? No, but we quickly realized once the parent company had the problem that it had, that could be a reality. And that is a really dicey situation. For anybody who's in business, they know that it can go either way at any point when you're talking to the parent about doing these different things. So, once we knew that was a possibility, we started planning for how we were going to do that. But we also had a duty to the parent company who was trying to sell us. We were just one of several bids for the company. So we also had to show the company to other people to sell it. Plus, we as management also had the capability to buy it. So, it was kind of an interesting point. But we didn't know when we sold it we were going to be able to buy it back. That really was just pure luck. That's what it ended up being. Yep. So this is the same company. So I'm still there. Yeah. Oh no, the chains. I got the chains on. I'm still there. They won't let me leave. So, but it's also about who do you want to sell it to, right? So I think if you have the luxury that we had of being able to sell it and decide when we wanted to sell it, we sold to a company where we knew we could continue to grow the business. So I'm really happy where I am because we're just plowing along doing the things that we want to do and can use their resources to do it. So very lucky situation that we're in. But again, we planned it. We didn't have to sell. We sold it to the guys that we thought would give us the best opportunity to grow as a business and continue to be entrepreneurs.
What direction do you think marketing is going to take as far as social media is?
So, I kind of glossed over some of this stuff, but, we manage Facebook pages for Coke and Oreo and Philly cream cheese and Lysol and JCPenney and all these guys. We are the guys posting to the walls, sending the Twitter messages out. That's our company in conjunction and getting approval from our clients. I think social media has a real opportunity to be something great. Today, it's a very small percentage of digital advertising or internet-related advertising, but there's incredible capabilities from a targeting perspective. And all you guys probably have experienced this. Suddenly you see ads that seem to be tailored to you, right? It's because Facebook's got a ton of information on you, right? They know who your friends are. They know what your friends are clicking on, what they're buying, what they're interested in, and they can tailor messages to you based on all those facts. So I don't think we've seen the full opportunity of social media. I think the other challenge, of course, not just with social media, but for digital advertising is devices, right? So today, if you're on your PC, a lot of marketing companies and Amazon or whoever it may be knows it's you, right? They know that you're buying something at Amazon on your PC. But if you go to Amazon for the first time on your iPad, they don't know it's you until you log in, and they don't know anything about you. So Amazon's trying, and many marketers are trying to figure out how to fingerprint consumers across different devices. Social media, obviously you guys are updating on cell phones. You might be looking at it on an iPad in the library, you're back home on your PC, checking things out. That's a real challenge, but social media combined with kind of mobile, I think, is going to be the big opportunities for marketers going forward. So all privacy-related issues is absolutely a challenge, right? The interesting thing about Facebook, in Facebook, you guys have given them permission to do all this stuff, whether you know it or not. So, you can check your privacy the section of Facebook and modify and change what data you want to provide to third parties. But just the nature of social media is about sharing, right? And so it's very difficult to get everything you want out of Facebook if you limit the amount of data you share, right? So it's kind of this catch-22 on Facebook. But I think that there are lots of good guys out there. There are always going to be bad guys who are going to try and do stuff with your data that you don't want them to do anything with. But the fact of the matter is that most of what's going on the web from a targeting perspective is very benign. People are trying to actually tailor messages to you based on what you actually are interested in. Not so much the evil, I'm going to steal all your information type privacy stuff. But most legitimate companies don't collect information that can specifically find you as an individual and your name. Facebook being the exception, right? Because they know everything about you. They know where you're located, right? They know you're in Starbucks, doing stuff. So, it just depends on the service, but most of them are pretty legitimate and don't want to collect any more information than they need to collect. This is an interesting point. I'm kind of an exception, right? Because I started when there was no industry. So I kind of lucked out, back to the luck piece. There was no one who did what I did. There was just a handful of people, so I was lucky. The only thing I can tell you guys is if you're really interested in something, you're really passionate about something, stick with it and be the best. And something will happen for you, whether that's fame or fortune, whatever it is. If you're the best at something, you're going to be successful. If you forget how to be the best at it and you just want the money or the fame, it's not going to happen for you. So it doesn't matter where you are, whether you're in the middle of Virginia or in the middle of New York, right? There's lots of similarities between Farmville and Geneva, New York, where I went to school. You just got to work hard. You got to be passionate. You got to go after it. You got to be the best at it. And everything else will work out, whether you're Longwood or Hobart, William Smith College, where I went, or you're Yale or Princeton or Harvard. It's all the same. So I think the other thing, too, and we talked about today, go into those meetings, whether it's with a potential employer or it's a partner, with confidence. You guys are really confident young individuals, and you got to leverage that as much as you possibly can and be confident when you're talking to folks. That's the number one thing when we interview young kids, coming out of school. If they don't come in confidence, they're not getting a job. They don't get called back. If they're not confident in their own abilities, and at that point, maybe that's all you think you have, you're not going to work out in the workforce. So leverage your confidence. You're all confident people. That's got to come out, Back to selling dog fences.
All right, one more question. With your success and your experience, if you could offer one piece of advice to other entrepreneurs, what would it be and why?
Well, I think it's back to what I really said. Go after something. Do something you really like. Again, you're going to go to work. You're going to spend a lot of time doing this stuff. Be passionate about one thing and be really good at it, and everything else will fall into place. There's obviously little tangents off of that, seizing opportunities and be lucky, right? But really be the best, and you're going to be successful. All right? Thank you.
Mr. Margiloff, we have a couple gifts for you. First, the the sponsoring student association would like to offer a gift for.
Great,
Yeah, the student advisory board would like to give you these.
thanks. Oh, they're heavy. I think I got to check these on the plane.
All right, we got a special gift for you. Coach Bowling, if you would come up. Coach Buddy Bowling is very successful, has all the traits you just talked about, by the way, for the baseball team here at Longwood. Is Scott Burnett here? Is Scott in that crowd? Where are you? Scott? Come on up, bud. We have with us a home run baseball. This baseball was hit over the fence by this young man, Scott. It was hit during the ball game against Buffalo, 5-4. It was a winning home run baseball. And the reason we're offering this to you, and we're going to have Coach Boulding actually present this to you, is because what you did today and this evening for all of us is you hit a home run.
Thank you.
Good job.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Walk off?
Hanging slider inside.
I couldn't hit those.
Will, on behalf of Longwood University and all these young, particularly our students, because that's why we are all here. That's why the state pays us to come and show up and do the things we do on a daily basis, whether that's our president or whether it's the person who picks the garbage. They're all the same value to this institution. Thank you so much for the many lessons you have taught us tonight, particularly for this grand expose that you have given to these young people, that they can be a fly on the wall. Then people pay big money to attend something like this that's not nearly as valuable as this is. And three things that I noted, that I wrote on this scrap of paper that I fortunately had in my wallet, was we are thankful vicariously for the passion you learned from your grandfather, that he gave you that great gift that may be the greatest gift of all you've received in your life, other than marrying a Longwood girl.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Thank you for paying your dues and having the will to pay your dues. Thank you for staying in the game and the persistence that requires in all of us. And I think maybe that, I'm just curious what that garage door looks like to this day.
But take a look at a picture of that.
In the event that you have the desire to toss a ball against something someday, we want you to have this
All right.
as a memorial of your visit to Longwood.
Great. Thanks again. Thank you. It's awesome. All right.
That's it. Thank you all so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.